The featured company is a paid client of Proactive Group Holdings, and this recording is disseminated by Proactive on its behalf.
I'm the last guy that gets to say drill there. But I think, it is very important to understand how you're targeting and when you think you've spent enough time understanding it to actually drill a hole.
Welcome back inside our proactive newsroom. And joining me now is Chris Frostad. He's the CEO of Purepoint Uranium Group. And Chris, it's great to see you again. How are you?
Very good, Steve. Thank you. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well. Excited to have you on. I know that you and I talked recently about the drilling that you're planning to do at your project, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to sort of give viewers a bit of insight into how decisions are made from the desk of the CEO. And I think when you decide to drill, that is a key moment in a company because you're spending a lot of dollars to put something into the ground, and you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. So first up, as a CEO, how do you look at that and say, okay, now we're ready to drill?
Well, I'm not the guy that says that. I'm the last guy that gets to say drill there. But I think, it is very important to understand how you're targeting and when you think you've spent enough time understanding it to actually drill a hole. Because as I've said before, most of the holes, almost all of the holes that get drilled in the basin come up with very little uranium. So you've got to be very, very careful as to where you're drilling and what your expectations are. Um, because so that's why we do start with a lot of geophysics, as we've said before, and mapping and drilling becomes part of that process of identification. But what you're really looking for are large scale structural systems at the end of the day. We're all looking for the same thing. And you do need those large scale systems. You're not just looking to poke a hole into a piece of uranium and say, there, I won. Um, because that's not going to get you anywhere at the end of the day. So that is what it's about. And we're looking for, so you start layering a lot of information on top of that before you make the call to spend the kind of money it takes to drill a hole.
Yeah, so let's talk about Dorado because I think you've done a lot of this work leading into where we are today. So it's a good model to show people. And modeling is key because you've done modeling and you've done this mobile MT work. So when you get those kind of details back, and I say you and I mean the team more so, obviously you're included in that. So what sort of things are you looking at in order to say, okay, now we're ready to take the next step?
Sure. Well, again, and the mobile MT is a good example of that, as one of the very a variety of things that we use to look at depth. But we're looking for a lot of the things we talk about, or a lot of exploration companies will talk about, is trying to look for graphitic conductors because it's a simple thing we can throw out there, but it's just one of many. It's not all about just finding a conductor. Most of this preference work that we do is not exciting to investors. So, we do try and boil it down. But what we're looking for again are these systems that involve structural complexity. We're looking for where maybe granitic aspects are up against a softer rock because that would be a good place for a system to run. We're looking for structure and faults. Of course, we're looking for the graphite, which is a softer rock, and that allows for it as well. We're looking for the geology and whatnot. So you really have to understand the area you're looking in first and make sure that it's even capable of holding a major system that might be mineralized. So when you do decide to start drilling, you're testing a theory that already exists. And that hole is going to come back with and validate things like the structure, like is it granite or is it peelites or and the route that it takes. And that's very important as well. And hopefully, you're going to find some mineralization in there that is part of that system. So the mobile MT that we're talking about that we've been using on a couple of our projects is giving us another layer of that data, and it's actually giving us a lot of granular information that allows us to follow those systems and make sure that we are drilling a hole in the right place.
I'm guessing here, but I would imagine that you find different size systems on a project, especially the size of the one that you have. So how do you sort of get down to the thing that this is the one we want to spend money on because it's the biggest, or is it the most radioactive? Like, how do you look at which ones are the best ones to start with?
It does you do start boiling it down. And again, in our situation, when you look at Dorado, we've probably circled about a dozen areas that we think are worthy of starting to drill. And then you prioritize that. You can prioritize it based on the amount of work that you've already done, and some of the preliminary drilling you've already done. A lot of times, once you've drilled a hole or two in an area and you've actually been able to see the alteration or see the structure, and see the movement of the rock that has occurred, it becomes a higher priority to stick around and do more drilling there. So it's a constant and ongoing reprioritization of targets.
I've done interviews with companies that say, we've done geophysical work and we found, 25 targets, but they're not going to hit 25 targets because it's just the cost is astronomical, as you can imagine. So what makes a target, in your opinion, a real one that you have to go after, you have to take a look at?
Sure. Well, number one, has there been mineralization found nearby? And that's a lot of it as well, because it's not hard to figure out who your neighbors have found or what they've found or what you've seen in the past. But I think what it is, it's the combination of indicators that you're looking for. So it's not just a conductor, because yeah, you've got kilometers of conductor, and you could and companies do, they will just systematically drill test along that conductor. But what you want to do is focus on where you see it take a bend, where you see the geology change, or if you're using different techniques, where you see what might be something out of the ordinary that would indicate that there has been some sort of disruption or movement in the area. So it's that layering of data that you've gathered up over time, that will help you prioritize where you're gonna poke a hole first. I mean, a good example for us was Tabernor, which is a massive system. We've done a lot of work over. We just drilled 4 holes, even despite the size of it, and that was really to start testing different aspects of it, so that we could understand how the geology worked with each other, and how it changed along the path, so we could better prioritize. But it is truly that layering of data and combination of things that will help you reprioritize.
So just as we wrap up here, just on your project, Dorado, I imagine you've got a lot of information. As I mentioned, you're going to head into the next round of drilling here. So all that takes shape, and in your mind that you're ready to roll.
Well, absolutely. So the follow-up that we're doing on the Nova discovery is very well understood now, because we've done the drilling. We've got a good idea as to where things are going. So we've got those targets defined quite well. We are running another MobileMT survey over the entire project, because now that we have assembled a number of projects and been able to look at them en masse, we can see how the IsoEnergy's hurricane deposit, that geology just wraps right through that whole project, and structure. So by applying this technique to it and being able to look deeper and more clearly, it's going to help us go back to those priorities that we had already identified, and truly, move them around possibly if need be. But we're going to get a pretty clear look at what's down there.
All right, pretty exciting stuff. Chris, thanks so much. Really great insight. Really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, Chris Frostad, the CEO of Purepoint Uranium Group.
The featured company is a paid client of Proactive Group Holdings, and this recording is disseminated by Proactive on its behalf. It is for informational purposes only and does not constitute investment advice, an offer, or a solicitation to buy or sell any securities. Viewers should conduct their own research and consult a qualified financial advisor before making investment decisions. The views expressed are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of Proactive Group Holdings, trading as Proactive Investors or its affiliates. No responsibility is accepted for any loss arising from reliance on the information presented.